Shalom. Giving all praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachakwadash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders at Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations, as always, to the elect. And I wanted to do a response, as I've seen, the elder apostle Tahar, other apostles, bishops, elders as well as this brother here. All right, the head of the Great Millstone, branch of Kansas City, as you can see here, GMS KC Prophets 3. Subscribe and be edified, as he did a response to the newest, doctrine from the Iuic concerning the mark of the beast, which when it's all said and done, you all will see through the Holy Spirit why our apostles, bishops, and elders were so adamant, all right, especially, the head, Apostle Tahar, adamant about, calling out the hypocrisy of these leaders. And this is what the ancient prophets always did. We just live in a very, westernized, where Jake has a very westernized mentality. And they don't really understand Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai. They don't understand, the ancient way in which the Heavenly Father set up his men. So when the prophets, day in and day out harp on things, they don't see it as a spiritual matter. They see it as just, a bunch of disgruntled men, stirring up, mess, which that's what they said about the Church of Yahweh Shai. They said they were moving men to sedition, turning the world upside down, constantly challenging and opposing the ideologies and the doctrines. That's what the men of the Lord always did, and it's not going to be any different in this time. And when it's all said and done, you all will see why the Heavenly Father put the Spirit on our leadership and the brothers to constantly harp on this particular camp and their stance on this very, important, prophecy surrounding the mark of the beast, which, that's very key, to salvation. And we clearly see that the powers that be are moving forth with technology that fits that prophecy. All right. And a system is being set up where you will be, ID'd in a digital sense. We know that the digital is going to meet the physical, where they're going to transcend, human limitations, with their science and with their technology. Their miracles, as it talks about in Revelation, the 13th chapter, as concerning this very beast system that we're in. It was prophesied. And it's the revival of Rome. It's not ancient Rome. And see, this is where now that the words of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua are coming out and prophecy is being fulfilled, the intents and minds of men is being made manifest, as now the IUIC is switching their doctrine again, concerning the mark of the beast. Whereas in times past, it was sin, it's sin in all forms. Even a couple of months ago, they popped up with a breakdown using Revelation, the 17th chapter, where it talks about the lady with the cup of abomination in her hands. That represented the mark of the beast. Basically the iniquity, which is sin, the philosophies, which the philosophies of this system, the philosophies of Babylon the Great, are part of the image. The image comes with philosophies, a way of governing, a vibration, a cultural, image, their image, their way, the way of the Edomite. This beast-like, hungry, white weight, just do it spirit, that stems from the image of the beast. It's not at all rooted in anything godly. And this is the world we see being set up before us, and it's all rooted in the ancient Greco-Roman way, which was rooted in Babylonian, Egyptian, and Canaanite, ways and fashions. And this is why we're in Babylon the Great. Anyway, this video was called If Nero Ruled, because now, as we're going to show you, the IUIC is moving more towards the mark of the beast being, a physical thing, where in times past it was either sin, it was an embargo.
Only on an item, like with a country, let's say I make this and you're mad at me about something, let's say I'll put a sanction on your orange Sharpies. But an embargo is on the whole country. Nobody can't do business with you, can't buy from you, can't trade with you. Read it again.
Let me come back over here.
The right hand, you support it. You pledge allegiance to
We're
it.
at 120. Let me come back a little bit more. Right here. So we're at 117.22.
Those are the words you hear in the news, right?
And that no man might buy or sell.
Give me another word for buy or sell. I want one word that discusses, that uses, that expresses buy or sell. Steve.
Trade.
Trade. That no man can trade. Except what?
And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark.
So now stop. You might say, wait a minute. Is that really what this is talking about? Trade. Buying and selling. Trade. Yes. Give me a precept. Ezekiel. Ezekiel 28. Verse 4 and 5. You need some words. These words are going to help you. You don't got to go to the Greek or the Latin to come up with a computer chip. You crazy? Ezekiel 28. Come on, help you. You don't got to go to the Greek or the Latin to come up with a computer chip. You crazy?
You heard him say you don't have to go into the Greek or the Latin. Keep watching the videos as I finish this video, because I wanted to go into their new doctrine.
Now, now you watched my last video I did. He actually, the reader, comes across the word mark in Revelation 13 and 16. And then he said charagma, and then Bishop Nate corrects him and says, no, it's charagma.
4 and 5. Come on.
28, verse 4. With thy wisdom and with thine understanding, thou hast gotten thee riches.
Yeah, thou hast gotten thee riches. Read.
Thou hast gotten gold and silver into thy treasures.
Go ahead.
By thy great wisdom.
By thy great wisdom.
And by thy traffic.
And by thy traffic. Can we look up that word traffic?
I think this is what you want. The transportation of goods for the purpose of trade
That's
by
it.
sea, land, or air.
Y'all see that? Read that bottom, that one again, Joshua again.
Transportation of goods for the purpose of trade by sea, land, or air.
Now the term the Bible uses for trade is what?
Traffic.
Traffic. What else in Revelation?
Buy and sell.
Buy and sell. Buy and sell. That's what traffic is making reference to in Ezekiel 28. Yes.
In the documentary we referenced before, and in the movie Even the Rain,
Yeah.
and the other one with the Esau said he was the devil.
When you get your thought, come back.
No, Even the Rain, their American companies control foreign interests.
Right.
So the food that people eat, their sanitation, everything that they need is dependent on American companies.
Exactly. Yes, Ezra, end of poverty. Yes, that's the name of it.
Also, if any of these nations try to go outside of what's put down, they put an embargo on them.
We get into that. Let's go right back to Revelation 13 and 16 again. We getting there. Okay.
Revelation 13, verse 17.
16 and
16 again. And he causeth all.
He causeth all nations. The all is making reference to nations, right?
Both small.
He's adding to the word.
Small nations.
And great.
Great nations.
Rich
nations.
and poor.
Poor nations.
Free
nations.
and bond.
Bond nations.
To receive a.
So they're saying it's not men, all right, but it's nations. But who are in nations? What makes up nations or people anyway?
Mark.
That mark is their philosophy, their policies, their doctrines. Go ahead.
In their right hand.
Wait a minute. Let's hear that again.
Small nations.
And great.
Great nations.
Rich
nations.
and poor.
Poor nations.
Free
nations.
and bond.
Bond nations.
To receive a mark.
That mark is their philosophy, their policies, their doctrines. Go ahead.
In their
He said their philosophies, their policies, their doctrines. If you check out Saturday, you check out the video I did, the last video I did, I showed the video that he did Saturday night where he said that the word mark goes to the word charagma, and he says that means during the time of Nero, if you weren't in good standing with Nero and the Roman Empire, you couldn't buy or sell. You couldn't use Nero's coin, which was engraved with maybe a picture of his face and his signature or whatever. Remember what the Lord said, who's on this coin? He said Caesar, and whose signature is the Caesar signature. Run unto Caesar what is Caesar, and to the Most High what is the Most High.
So as you can see, that was one of the many older breakdowns by the IUIC of the Mark of the Beast. Now let's go back to this brother's video, and then we're going to get into it. And hopefully you brothers and sisters are edified. Because the title of this video, If Nero Ruled from 54 to 68 AD, how does Revelation, the 13th chapter, which is a prophecy of end time. Okay, when you read the book of Revelation, the 13th chapter, it's directly associated with the revival of Rome. See? Which will show you, and it's not speaking, okay? The only way you can link Revelation 13, at the bottom, to the ancient Roman Empire is by the image, all right, that was the deadly wound being healed. The image then lived, and that would be through this system, and that would be through their policies, okay, their way of governing, their culture, their philosophies, the entertainment, even when you deal with the Colosseum. All of these things go back to the ancient Roman Empire, thus the image of the beast, because you have the image, all right, of the beast, and you have the mark. You have the beast, his image, and his mark. And all of those things need to be clarified. Okay, the image is not just a mere stand-alone picture of white Jesus. It's deeper than that. See? But then there's his mark. All right, which when we look out into the world today, we can clearly see that technology associated with his miracles is being put on the forefront as the new wave of how they want to live and rule their kingdom. But here's IUIC's latest breakdown of the mark of the beast. Yet another change. And the scriptures tells us in the book of Ephesians, the 4th chapter, in the 14th verse. Let's read it in the NLT. It says, "Then we will no longer be immature like children. We won't be tossed and blown about by every wind of new teaching." Okay, here it is. These men, every other week, every other year, every other month, they're popping up with a new understanding on what the mark of the beast is. At one point, they mocked it being associated with buying and selling. The RFID technologies has nothing to do with buying or selling, but it's about tracking. Well, now we see that buying and selling is, all right, associated with RFID technology. And so many other things that they said, okay, when they were mocking us and saying we're conspiracy theories nuts and this and that. Well, now the actual prophecy is being fulfilled, and they're having to shift their stance because they're being questioned, okay, by people in their churches because they are watching our videos. And it's clear. When we go and do these news and prophecies in these videos and we're showing you what this devil is doing, what's going on in the earth, that has to be tied to prophecy. We have to tie these things. When we go to the news We just type in brain chip and we see, okay, all of this technology dealing with brain implants. Okay, we have to understand that prophecy is the reason. We should be able to tie this to prophecy in some shape, form, or fashion. See, but as our beloved elder apostle Ramlab said, okay, this man is gonna set it up like he always does to say, well, he did, okay, and he did teach about the chip, because a few years ago he said they may throw a microchip in there, but it still ain't the mark of the beast. So now he's trying to cover his ass, as we're going to show you. His new breakdown is associated with linking it to what was imprinted into a coin, which would make, all right, associated with Nero in ancient Rome, which would make it a physical thing. Then we will no longer be immature like children. We won't be tossed and blown about by every wind of new teaching. We will not be influenced when people try to trick us with lies so clever they sound like the truth. Instead, we will spread the truth in love, growing every way more and more like Yahweh Shah, who is the head of his body, the church. See, and people are being influenced by these hucksters, man. And again, Peter warned that there would be false prophets amongst us who would make merchandise of you, who would have these fair speeches and be beloved of the people. Okay, so you think that's not being fulfilled in these times? Well, we're watching it be fulfilled. They're making merchandise of you. Silly women laden with iniquity. They put they boast in their works and not the blood of Yahweh Shai, being our only way to be perfection. We're seeing all of these things happen right before our very eyes, and we can't be immature. And then a lot of these people are watching these videos that we're doing, and they're going back and asking their congregation, and there's no way around linking what we see happening with this technology to what John the Revelator saw. So now they have to switch it up. Okay?
Of the beast, exactly as in Revelation 13, verse 17.
Go ahead.
The next verse goes on to identify the number of the beast man, as being 666. And yet, this is the sum of the Hebrew letters in Neron Caesar. Whatever other application these verses may be seen.
Now they say we get our breakdowns from the white man, but they're reading something from what a white man wrote. You see how these guys are? They're reading this article, this breakdown comes from a white man. Okay, now I've heard this breakdown before, associating the 666 with Nero Caesar. And let's just say that word true. Well, how does that play out today? Is not that which is then now? Now let's say Trump is indeed Nero Caesar in the reincarnation. He brought about persecution, and he can be the one used to bring forth this charagma, which would be right in line with what prophecy says. You see?
To have to Catholic persecution.
What I want y'all to see with this article, y'all can look it up yourself. They had to confess Caesar was.
But Nero has nothing to do with the mark of the beast that John the Revelator saw, because John the Revelator saw something in future tense, in the sense that he was speaking about, all right, something that will come in end time prophecy, which isn't where we are now. Okay, let's go back.
Of the beast, exactly as in Revelation 13, verse 17.
Go ahead.
The next verse goes on to identify the number of the beast man, as being 666. And yet, this is the sum of the Hebrew letters in Neron Caesar. Whatever other application these verses may be seen to have to Catholic persecution.
What I want y'all to see with this article, y'all can look it up yourself. They had to confess Caesar was Lord in order to buy and sell. They had to have the Roman coin that says Caesar's Lord in order to buy and sell. That's what they did to the Christians. And this is talking about our people.
And those are things that did happen, okay, in times past. We even showed you with the Greeks before. The Greeks set up systems of registry where you would have to get a brand on your body in a physical sense, which ties to chi-side stigma, okay, denoting a mark you put on your body as a token to your God. Like you see those East Indians have the red dot. Okay, that's associated with their God, their belief. Okay, there is an ancient custom of, putting a mark on you associated with the God you worship. Okay, which is we'll show you is tied to chi-side stigma 666. Okay, but again, when you read the book of Revelation, as we'll show you, the 13th chapter, that's speaking of a specific time in the future, which would lead to the end of Esau's world. So that wasn't talking about ancient Rome. John the Revelator, when he was speaking of the MOTB being issued, it had nothing to do with ancient Rome and Nero Caesar. It had everything to do with the times we're in now, where he has the power to do all of these miracles and boast in his transhumanism and boast in merging man with machine. That all of that is happening in this time. That didn't happen at the time of Nero Caesar. But ironically, now the IUIC has switched their doctrine on the mark of the beast. Now they're associating Nero and his coin. That's the fulfillment of the mark of the beast in Revelation, the 13th chapter. You see how, they're doing this openly in front of all of you so-called believers in Christ, right? And none of y'all are questioning this madness? How come every other year there's a different breakdown on the mark of the beast when it comes to these guys? First is an embargo. Then it's sin in all its forms. Then it's associated with Revelation 17. Then it's pledging allegiance to Esau's military. Then it's anything dealing with his, financial system and educational system. And what if the financial system says you got to take a charagma? What if the money goes digital and you got to take a chip? You can't. So they've done everything in their power to disassociate the very technology we see before us from the mark, okay, and have come up with every possible way, okay, to separate themselves from the truth of the matter. So the question is, have you guys been paid off? Have you sold out? See? Prophecy is making the hearts of men manifest right before your very eyes. And you all will not be able to say you didn't know. Okay, let's get that scripture in the book of, I believe it's Proverbs 24. Proverbs, the 24th chapter. This is Proverbs 24:12. Don't excuse yourself by saying, look, we didn't know. For God understands all hearts and he sees you. He who guards your soul knows you knew, and he will repay people as their actions deserve. Because many of our people are going to take that chip. They took the jab under y'all's leadership. Although y'all tried to switch it up after a bunch of people started getting sick and all right, dropping. But under y'all's leadership, our people have relied on this system in times of trouble. So how much more when that chip comes, y'all are going to tell them it's okay. Well, the Lord ain't going to kill you. Well, there's really no hardcore stance on it. There's been a gray area surrounding this technology when it comes to you guys. So now you're being questioned, and now you're all over the place playing all of these stupid games, man. But the Lord is going to deal with you guys, man. This is serious business.
Give me the next article. There's another one.
666.
Raise it up. Zoom in. Let me see where I want to start. start. No, I don't want that up there. What is Revelation? Let's start.
What is Revelation? The book of the Bible called Revelation was originally a letter written in the 1st century by a man named John, while living in exile on the island of Patmos, to 7 churches in the Roman province of Asia, Revelation 1 and 4. Ancient and modern interpreters have typically dated Revelation.
Right. Hey, raise it up. Let's get to the point. It says needed to buy and sell. Raise it up. Raise it up. Raise it.
Now they're going to the white man for their breakdown. After all these years, Alex Jones brought out the mark of the beast first. Y'all got that doctrine from him. Okay. Well, who'd you get this from?
Raise it. Did we just miss it? Go back down. It said needed to buy and sell.
You passed it.
Let me see.
The second beast out of the earth.
No. It says needed to buy and sell. Let me see. Lower it. Right there. Go ahead. Read right there.
Needed to buy and sell. While the word mark clearly has symbolic meaning, what if it also has literal meaning? After all, John says that his contemporaries were unable to buy or sell without this mark. The word for mark in the Greek is charagma.
Now they're saying his contemporaries. Now let's look up the word contemporary. Okay. It means something that is current, modern, or belongs to the present time. Now, when you read Revelation, the 13th chapter, okay, John, a revelator, is witnessing something that happened in the future. As this comes from starting at verse 11, Revelation 13 and 11. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. This is speaking of America, which ultimately completes the revival of Rome. Okay? The beast that had the deadly wound and was healed. The Western Roman Empire fell, right? And for a period of 1,000 years, you had the Jake rule in the Dark Ages. And then around the early 1400s, late 1300s, you have a Renaissance period. Rebirth of the Western Roman Empire, which out of Italy eventually came the Spanish, the French, the British. And then you had the 13 colonies established, which all of this brought about the revival of Rome. So of that beast system, the 7 heads and 10 horns, right? America, okay, is the final head of the beast, which when you read Daniel, the 7th chapter, real quick, Daniel, the 7th chapter, in the 7th verse, and I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. This is speaking of the Roman Empire. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, because they had a senate, all right, voting systems, all right, whereas other kingdoms, the throne was passed from the father to the son. Okay, and that same senate is here today. It says, and it was diverse from all the other beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns, which are subordinate vassal states. Okay. And I beheld the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up. All right, going back to the Revolutionary Wars between the Spanish, the French, the British, America, okay, is that other little horn. Okay. And behold, in this horn were the eyes like the eyes of a man, his pride, all right, which he boasts in being God, his technology, but he's a mere man. So that represents his science and a mouth speaking great things, man. All right, his philosophies, he transgressed by wine. And it will be through that system, that little horn, that revived from the 4th beast, Rome. The revival of Rome would lead to the Most High setting a decision and sending back his only begotten Son. Okay, Yahushua returns during the rule of that beast. Okay. And when you go down to Daniel 7, okay, and 20, start at 19. Then I will know the truth of the fourth beast, Rome, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were iron and his nails brass, was devoured and broke in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet. See, this is speaking of the ancient Roman Empire. And the 10 horns, the vassal states that made it a beast system that were in his head. And of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, the other which came up is America. Even that horn that had eyes like and a mouth that spoke great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. America is ultimately the pride of your heart have deceived you. And I beheld the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them. Okay? Until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given unto him. And the saints of the Most High took the kingdom and possessed it. So, Daniel, the 7th chapter, gives you insight that it will be through the revival of Rome. You see that the end will come. And in Revelation, the 13th chapter, John the Revelator, right, who could very well be Daniel, because Daniel was told he would prophesy again. John was told he would prophesy again. All right, but it says, Revelation, the 13th chapter and 11th verse, this is giving you insight into that, all right, little horn that had, his science, and it's going into what that little horn would do. So this is Revelation 13 and 11, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth that had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. That's America. And he exercises all the power of the first beast that was before him, the ancient Roman Empire, and caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Because they brought, all right, the revival of Rome back into the earth. The Renaissance was complete in America. All right, as well as the EU and NATO. Okay? That brought back that ancient Roman system as a power house in the earth. Worldwide. Okay? So they made you worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. They made you worship the ancient Roman Empire. And he doeth wonders that he maketh fire to come down from heaven. All right, his military. Verse 14, and it deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. And said to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast which had a wound by a sword and did live. The ancient Western Roman Empire in its ways are reborn through Babylon. But it goes back to Italy, the 1400s, Spanish, French, British, okay, Germany, right? Basically, this is the revival of that ancient Roman way. And he had power to give life to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image that he should be killed or separated. Okay, basically he forced the philosophies and the ways and the policies of the ancient Greco-Roman Empire. Okay? And ultimately, if you're not down with it, you're going to eventually be separated, and they're going to pass legislation to have you killed. And he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a charagma in their right hands, or a mark in their right hands or in their foreheads. So John the Revelator is seeing something in the future. You see what I'm saying? When you get Revelation, the 14th chapter, right? The mark of the beast, Revelation 14, which this is the new song, and 9. And the third angel followed them with a loud voice, saying, if any man worship the beast, his image and his mark, all right, and receive his mark up on their forehead or in their hands. If any man, not any nation or a small nation, great, no, any man, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of the Most High, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. Okay, and this is a message associated with end time prophecy, as the prophets will go out singing the new song. So going back to what these hucksters are talking about, they're saying, let's listen to it again, because these are things you got to know, because a lot of these guys will just be thinking they talking to a bunch of, people who really don't study like that, so they're oohed and awed by it. Thank you for putting the pieces together. I love my bishop. I love my leaders. All right? All APTTM.
In the Greek is charagma, which means engraved, etched, or imprinted. Around the time that Revelation was written, the Roman currencies being used had engravings of Caesar on them.
That's what we read earlier. Go ahead.
Mark 12:16. During Nero's reign, his portrait appeared on coins, appearing like the god Apollo, often inscribed with the words, Son of God. To John, as a former Jew, this was considered blasphemous.
Read.
Exodus 20, verse 4. Everyone, rich and poor, slave and free, had to use this Roman currency, marked with the image of
everyone, rich and poor, slave and free. Why in the nations then?
Rome openly proclaimed that its rulers, the Caesars, were divine gods or sons of God. All those under the jurisdiction of Rome, such as the early church, were required by law to publicly proclaim their allegiance to Caesar by burning a pinch of incense and declaring Caesar is Lord.
Y'all see that? Go ahead.
Let's do this.
And that has happened. That did happen. But that's not a fulfillment of the mark of the beast. Okay?
Charagma, which means engraved, etched, or imprinted. Around the time that Revelation was written, the Roman currencies being used had engravings of Caesar on them.
That's what we read earlier.
And just like today, the money got engravings of Caesar on it. That ain't the mark of the beast.
Go ahead.
Mark 12:16. During Nero's reign, his portrait appeared on coins, appearing like the god Apollo, often inscribed with the words, Son of God. To John, as a former Jew, this was considered blasphemous.
Read.
Exodus 20, verse 4. Everyone rich.
And many of the followers of Yahushua died because they didn't bow, to the and call the particular Caesar's God. They stuck to believing in Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. They walked with Yahushua, so they took all kind of deaths. Many of the followers of Yahushua died in Colosseums for refusing to bow, to ultimately Esau, Edom, and his gods and his idols and himself. You see what I'm saying? But when we deal with the mark of the beast that John the Revelator is prophesying about in Revelation the 13th chapter, that's speaking of these times. As the title of that brother's video is, Nero ruled, before John the Revelator wrote the book of Revelation.
And poor, slave and free, had to use this Roman currency, marked with the image of Nero. Rome openly proclaimed that its rulers, the Caesars, were divine gods or sons of God. All those under the jurisdiction of Rome, such as the early church, were required by law to publicly proclaim their allegiance to Caesar by burning a pinch of incense and declaring Caesar is Lord.
Y'all see that? Go ahead.
Upon compliance with this law, the people were given a papyrus document,
written paper,
called a libellus, which they were required to present when either stopped by the Roman police or attempting to engage in commerce.
That's buying or selling.
In the Roman marketplace. increasing the difficulty of buying or selling without this mark.
So without that coin, you could, and you had to admit, Caesar is Lord in order to buy and sell. So when we read in the Bible, that's how when they read it, they said, well, this is what's going on now. That man of sin was being revealed. And guess what? It's like a what? A ring. It's going to happen again. Just watch. Just watch what happens.
So if it's going to happen again, what are you going to need to buy and sell? Now that you're clearly saying, right? You're clearly saying here that the mark of the beast is associated with a coin. Because as you heard him say, the Hebrew word for mark is charagma. So it's no longer an embargo. It's no longer sin. Now he's associating it with a coin that had the visage of Nero Caesar imprinted in it. And you had to bow to him in order to be able to buy and sell. So if that's going to play itself out again today, what device, what physical device are you going to need, all right, in order to buy or sell? And again, John the Revelator is not talking about back then. John the Revelator is talking about now. This prophecy is something that is going to happen now. Okay, when you read Revelation, the 20th chapter, Revelation 20 and 4, and I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls that were beheaded for the witness of Yahushua and for the word of the Most High, which had not worshipped the beast. Got to identify the beast. Neither his image. Got to identify the image. Neither have received his mark upon his forehead or in their hands. And they lived and reigned 1,000 years with Yahushua. So if the mark of the beast happened already, okay, when did they reign 1,000 years with Yahushua? Which is the foundational process of the kingdom of heaven being built. Where the Lord, allows Yahushua and his men, the Alahayim, to fix and set up paradise on the planet Earth. Okay? What took, 7,000 years, 6 days, 6,000 years to ultimately complete. Then the 7th day of rest, 7,000. Then, he's going to give them that day, that one day, to get their creation back in order. All right? Because the earth is Yahushua's inheritance, and he shares that inheritance with his men. So they're going to be at the forefront of setting all of the earth back in order. So the mark of the beast is associated with something that comes before the kingdom is set up on the planet Earth. You see what I'm saying? So to associate Nero Caesar and say that this was speaking of a particular event associated with him is going off. Give me 1 second here. All right, that's going off.
Contemporaries were unable to buy or sell without this mark. The word for mark in the Greek is charagma, which means engraved, etched, or imprinted. Around the time that Revelation was written, the Roman currencies being used had engravings of Caesar on them.
That's what we read earlier. Go ahead.
Mark 12:16. During Nero's reign, his portrait appeared on coins, appearing like the god Apollo, often inscribed with the words, Son of God. To John, as a former Jew, this was considered blasphemous.
Read.
Exodus 20, verse 4. Everyone, rich and poor, slave and free, had to use this Roman currency, marked with the image of Nero. Rome openly proclaimed that its rulers, the Caesars, were divine gods or sons of God. All those under the jurisdiction of Rome, such as the early church, were required by law to publicly proclaim their allegiance to Caesar.
And how are you going to proclaim your allegiance to Caesar in this modern time? Okay? Well, it's going to be through, all right, that charagma. And they're prepping you with those juices, man. All right, but you're gonna have to fully, be recreated in his image, man, and come up under his grid to survive or live on his earth.
Burning a pinch of incense and declaring Caesar is Lord.
Y'all see that? Go ahead.
Upon compliance with this law, the people were given a papyrus document
Written paper.
called a libellus, which they were required to present when either stopped by the Roman police or attempting to engage in commerce
That's buying or selling.
in the Roman marketplace, increasing the difficulty of buying or selling without this.
See, well, now they want to surveil you under your skin. And this is not medical information. This is all fair use. Again, they want to be able to not have to, they don't need a police to stop your ass. Okay? AI will ultimately police you, and you will be linked to AI. All right? Physically.
So without that coin, you had to admit Caesar is Lord in order to buy and sell. So when we read in the Bible, that's how when they read it, they said, well, this is what's going on now. That man of sin was being revealed. And guess what? It's like a what? A ring. It's going to happen again. Just watch. Just watch what happens. From there. We're almost done. Isaiah 14. No, they didn't put chips in their brains. No. There was no microchips back then. No.
Of course there was no microchips back then. But you see the pride of these guys? Now they've changed the whole breakdown. Now this whole Nero thing. What's next?
Jesus is Lord. This does not compute. Caesar is Lord. Caesar is Lord. Isaiah 14:1.
It's the book of Isaiah.
So you heard it for yourself. Okay, now this Nero is the breakdown, because there are people who associate Nero with the 666, which, I mean, as we've always showed you, all right, that 666, okay, chi side stigma, okay, chi anointed, but it's the X, so they're Xing out the anointed, Xi, because we always show you that logo with those 3 lines that you see in the Tesla logo, what you see in the Biden-Harris campaign, okay, that red E, those 3 lines, Jay-Z used it. It's dealing with their left-handed philosophies, man. And that also deals with, merging man with, machine. Okay? And then you have stigma, okay, which is a mark pricked or branded upon the body. To ancient Oriental usage, slaves and soldiers bore the name or stamp of their master or commander, branded or pricked, cut into their bodies to indicate what master or general they belonged to. And there were even some devotees who stamped themselves in this way with the token to their gods. So again, this is an ancient system. John the Revelator, all right, is seeing that ancient system in the modern time via prophecy. So what could be used to fulfill this, all right, that we are witnessing worldwide? Okay, that brain chip. Okay, point blank period. All right, and John the Revelator was seeing something associated with these times. Yes, they use particular words and terms that were associated with the life they knew. Right, like when they saw airplanes, they called them scorpions. They described it with what they had, but the prophecy was for a time afar off. And as the scriptures say, at the end, these things would speak. And the man of sin is being revealed in these times. The end wouldn't come until the man of sin will be revealed in these times. So these guys just don't have it. And the Heavenly Father will continue to expose all false prophets and those of you who are handling the word of the Lord deceitfully. Because why are you so reluctant to associate the mark with the brain chip technology when you clearly see that technology being put on the horizon? Anyway, hopefully I will edify. Shalom.